Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, and today is March 13th, 2025. Another day that ends in Y, and yet another conservative Christian has been found to be less than appropriate with people who are far younger than he. This is wrapping him up in a large, gigantic scandal. In fact, not only is this person a conservative, he is also a megachurch pastor from Texas, and wouldn't you know it, a spiritual advisor to Donald Tesla Trump. As I love every opportunity to demonstrate that every accusation is a confession with these people, I figured I would open up this little box of worms. Keep in mind, I am going to go over some pretty sensitive topics moving forward. I won't fault anyone for avoiding this video, but this does need to be addressed. So, trigger warning. But if you do dig news, history, or humorous American hogwash, drop a little poop emoji in the comments below, because my detractors seem to think I'm completely full of shit anyways. So why not? Recently, there has been a need by many, specifically on the conservative end of the political window, to demonize their opposition, or anyone who truly just disagrees with their beliefs. The issue is methodology. Mind you, the strategy is simple. Find a scapegoat that the world can get behind, and then try to tag everything and everyone that you don't like with this title. It's simple, but clearly works on the simple-minded. Be it BLM, DEI, Antifa, really any kind of liberal acronym, because big word hard, books long, wear colorful picture. Or when they get super desperate, everyone is an abuser of children. With no evidence whatsoever, they will try to claim that transgender people are predators for existing, or drag queens are predators because they're reading books to children. You've heard it. Or they're just like, I don't know, a Democrat. What's fascinating is this just keeps happening and people keep falling for it. Robert Preston Morris has been indicted in Oklahoma for child SA. The reason he stands out is that he was also Trump's spiritual advisor, and this dude is hit with 5 charges from all the way back in the 1980s. But then there are many others. Josh Duggar, who once acted as an executive director of a legislative arm of the Family Research Council, has to resign in 2015 after he had acted inappropriately with underage girls and committed SA even upon his own sisters. Roy Moore, who was a former Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court and Republican State Senate candidate, was charged in 2017 with multiple SA offenses. This person also holds what has been described as being virulently anti-LGBT and has even tried to make homosexuality a crime. Paul Pressler was a former Texas state judge and a member of the Southern Baptist Convention. The abuse he was guilty of actually spanned several decades. His accusations went all the way back to the 1970s. Now, I understand, these are indeed anecdotal, and I would need a lot more examples of this to actually demonstrate some kind of trend. Tim Ballard is the founder of Operation Underground Railroad, which was established specifically to combat child trafficking. Unfortunately, he too is being accused of using that position as a means to actually engage in those exact activities. William Franklin Galbraith is a conservative pastor at Harvest Holiness Church from Salem, South Carolina, and this year he's been accused of 7 counts of SA against a minor. In recent history, over 30 other faith leaders have actually just been arrested in Tennessee alone for SA. The Mormon Church has over 100 cases that can be referred to, and while the John Jay report from 2004 documented a staggering 10,667 allegations of this in the Catholic Church, a more recent report of the Roman Catholic bishops alleged an astounding 4,434 new cases against the clergy. From right here in the good old US of A to Ireland to Australia, the reports are literally in the thousands, spanning back decades. And while we can't actually gather any real information when it comes to high-profile cases at Epstein's Island, the current conservative president of the United States has advocated for both Jeffrey Epstein and his confidant, Ghislaine Maxwell. He's also been mentioned several times within Mr. Epstein's court documents, which paints kind of an ugly picture due to the fact that most of the allegations have been redacted. Yet, while all of this is occurring, we have Karens dropping their kids off at church so they can go yell at drag queens in libraries. And contrary to the alcoholic ramblings of Maria Bartiromo or Judge Franzia Janine over at Fox News, those in the transgender community are actually much higher risk at being targeted and experiencing violence against them than the cis community. It's actually the opposite of what conservative Christians would have you believe. Regardless, when it comes to these two marginalized groups of people in SA abuse cases, nothing. To the point wherein QAnon created a story about a pizza parlor having a dungeon in their basement that was dedicated solely to these activities by high-profile government officials. The only hiccup was when an armed gunman went in and tried to expose it, only to find that not only was this not happening, the pizza parlor didn't even have a basement. Sad fact, the man known as Edgar Madison Welch, who committed the crime that was released in 2020 and subsequently got shot by police in North Carolina this year, has unfortunately passed away. That means this man's mind was so poisoned by this stuff that he died believing it. His last moments in this world were thinking that he was somehow fighting against a false enemy that had been created by conservative think pieces and conspiracy theorists with the primary goal of just further demonizing already marginalized groups. That will forever remain this man's legacy, and if it really is the only life we have to live, what a terrible way to be remembered. You see, when hate is the point, and when your only release is to punch down or to the side, you end up making your entire movement or position foolish at best and based upon violent lunacy at worst. Currently, American conservatives have created scapegoat boogeymen for their greatest fears and placed them upon anybody who they don't agree with. This takes average American citizens and puts targets on them for their perfectly acceptable set of beliefs and turns neighbors into enemies. Please heed my advice when I say that if a leader is trying to cast out members of our own community at their own benefit, they're not serious leaders. They don't want to represent you. They want to rule you. And the sooner we call this out, the more we can grow and progress as a country. And the best way that you can be a part of the solution is by truly being an ally and offering not just support, but refuge to those who will need it moving forward. Don't be afraid to stand up and embrace those who need it the most, folks. There are a lot of people who are afraid of the entire world right now because of how they've been perceived through lies and exploitation of fear. We can't move forward if we are being guided by the hateful. Anyways, if you've hung out this far with me, I appreciate it. Consider liking and subscribing. It goes a long way in making sure there are greater messages in the ether than those of hate. Just make sure you stay informed, stay engaged, and stay decent. Y'all come back now. You hear?